The sunny morning in Atlanta began like hundreds before. The hum of traffic, the smell of fresh coffee, and a light breeze weaving between the glass towers downtown. But for 16-year-old Jalen Watson, this morning carried the weight of something unspoken. Jalen, a tall African-American teen with short curly hair, sharp cheekbones, and deep brown eyes that always seemed tired, walked the hallway of John F. Kennedy High School trying to go unnoticed. His slim frame was hidden beneath an oversized hoodie and jeans. He knew that the less attention he drew, the fewer reasons people would find to bother him. At first glance, the school looked normal. Teachers smiled politely, students acted busy. But beneath the surface, there were whispers, stares, and cruel little nicknames that followed Jalen like shadows. "Hey, Watson, wrong hallway," sneered Trevor, a broad-shouldered white boy in a varsity football jacket, tossing a crumpled piece of paper at him. "Let him be," said Emma, a red-haired girl with freckles, her voice flat with indifference, probably looking for another way to feel oppressed. Jalen said nothing. He had learned long ago that answering back only made things worse. But inside, anger boiled. Why should he be treated like an outsider just because of the color of his skin? After school, he headed straight to the library, the only place he felt at peace. There, Mrs. Rogers, an elderly white woman with soft eyes and silver hair in a neat bun, waited for him. She was one of the few at the school who truly believed in him. "You're quiet again today, Jalen," she said, pouring him a cup of tea. "Just tired," he replied. "Sometimes I feel invisible. Or maybe too visible." She nodded and gently placed a hand over his. "You're not alone, my dear boy. And your voice matters. We just need to figure out how to make it louder." Jalen stared into the tea, thoughtful. What if he did fight back? Not with fists, but with words, action, example. Could one teenager really change the mindset of an entire school? Jalen sat at the back of the school bus, earbuds in, staring out the window as the city blurred by. Music helped. Just a little. Kendrick Lamar's voice filled his ears, pulsing with pain and truth he understood far too well. He lived in a low-income neighborhood on the south side of the city. Small, worn-out houses lined the street, many with chipped paint and bars on the windows. His mother, Renee, a nurse working night shifts, did her best. She was a warm-skinned black woman with tired eyes and a heart of iron, and he loved her fiercely. That night, at dinner, she noticed his silence. "Bad day?" she asked, sliding a plate toward him. Rice, beans, a piece of fried chicken. Jalen nodded. "They called me gangsta again. I don't even wear chains. Don't even speak like that." Renee sighed. "People are afraid of what they don't understand. Sometimes they need someone to prove their picture of the world wrong." "Why is that always on me?" he muttered. She leaned across the table and squeezed his hand. "Because you're strong enough to do it." Later that night, Jalen opened his laptop and typed slowly into the search bar, "How to start a student podcast." An idea had started to take root, a space where voices like his could be heard. Meanwhile, across town, Trevor scrolled through his phone, pausing on a clip someone had taken of him throwing paper at Jalen. The comments were brutal. "You're what's wrong with this country. This ain't funny." Trevor stared at the screen, jaw clenched. For the first time, the mirror turned toward him, and he didn't like what he saw. The next day at school, Jalen moved with quiet determination. The sting of yesterday still lingered, but something had shifted. He had spent hours designing a simple logo the night before. Mic'd up. Voices that matter. It wasn't much, just black text over a waveform background, but it felt like a seed. During lunch, he approached Sophia, a Mexican-American girl from his English class. Petite, with long, jet-black hair and sharp hazel eyes, she was known for her poetry and never backing down from debate. "Hey," he said, holding up his phone with the logo on screen. "I'm starting a podcast. I want to talk about real stuff, what people like us go through." She raised an eyebrow. "You sure the school will even let you?" He shrugged. "I'm not asking." Sophia smirked. "Then I'm in." That same afternoon, they recorded their first episode in the library's media room, with Mrs. Rogers quietly locking the door behind them. Jalen sat in front of the mic, heartbeat racing. "Welcome to Mic'd Up," he said, voice trembling but steady. "This is for every student who feels unheard, unseen, disrespected. Today, we're talking about what it's like walking these halls when you're not white." Sophia added, "When people smile at you but lock their car doors. When they call you smart for a Latina. When teachers call you the wrong name every day. Their words filled the room, raw and unfiltered. Meanwhile, in the locker room, Trevor scrolled past a video titled, Mic'd Up, Episode 1. He paused, then clicked. Something in Jalen's voice hit him in the chest. Not anger, not accusation, just truth. Uncomfortable truth. The kind you can't ignore once you hear it. By the end of the week, the first episode of Mic'd Up had been shared dozens of times. Students whispered about it in hallways. Teachers looked at Jalen and Sophia with a mix of curiosity and caution. But the ones who mattered, the quiet ones, the kids who always sat in the back, started nodding at them in passing, silent thanks in their eyes. Jalen felt it. Something was changing. At home, Renee listened to the episode while folding laundry. She didn't say much afterward, just hugged him a little longer than usual. But not everyone was supportive. On Monday, the principal called Jalen and Sophia into his office. He was a tall, pale-skinned man with neatly combed gray hair and a tie too tight around his neck. His smile was cold. "We appreciate student creativity," he began, "but your podcast has stirred up tension. Perhaps you should consider shutting it down." Jalen's jaw clenched. "We haven't broken any rules." "It's not about rules. It's about tone. You're making some students uncomfortable." "You mean the truth makes them uncomfortable?" Sophia snapped. The principal's eyes narrowed. "This is a learning environment, not a protest ground." They left the office furious, but not afraid. Later that day, a note slipped into Jalen's locker stopped him in his tracks. It was from Ethan, a quiet white kid with dark blonde hair who rarely spoke. Jalen recognized him from chemistry class. "I listened. I never knew. I'm sorry. If there's anything I can do, I want to help." Jalen looked around, stunned. For the first time, he realized they weren't just speaking for the hurt. They were reaching the ones who were ready to change. The next episode of Mic'd Up dropped with a new title, Uncomfortable Conversations. This time, Jalen and Sophia invited guests, Ethan and Layla, a tall biracial girl with golden brown skin and tightly coiled curls, who had once been suspended for attitude during a class discussion on civil rights. "I wasn't angry," Layla said into the mic, her voice calm. "I was passionate, but passion from someone like me is labeled as aggression." Ethan cleared his throat nervously before speaking. "I used to think racism meant saying slurs or wearing white hoods, but it's quieter than that. It's when I laughed at a joke I knew was wrong, or when I stayed quiet when my friends made fun of Jalen." The episode went viral within the school community. Even parents started sharing it. One teacher, Mr. Daniels, white, in his 50s, usually silent on these matters, stopped Jalen in the hallway. "You've got guts, son," he said, patting him on the shoulder. "Keep talking." But the pushback grew louder too. Some students mocked the podcast in class. Others wrote, "Go back to Africa" on the bathroom stall in black marker. Jalen saw it on Wednesday morning. It knocked the breath from him. Mrs. Rogers stood beside him, her face pale with fury. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "We'll have it cleaned immediately." "No," Jalen said. "Leave it. Let them see what we deal with." She looked at him, surprised and proud. That night, Jalen sat alone in his room. The hateful message burned into his mind. But instead of retreating, he wrote. He turned his pain into words, clear, sharp, and full of fire. The next morning, a printed letter appeared on the school bulletin board signed, "A letter from the hallways." It was anonymous, but everyone knew it was him. "They tell us to smile through it, to stay calm, to be quiet. But when you're 13 and followed in a store, or 16 and called dangerous for raising your voice, silence becomes poison. You don't fix injustice by hiding it. You fix it by facing it. This school has a problem, and it won't heal until we all stop pretending it doesn't exist." By lunch, the letter was everywhere. Students passed it around. Some cried, some scoffed, but no one ignored it. Trevor read it twice. His hands trembled. For days, he had avoided Jalen, ashamed, confused, and unsure of what to say. But the letter cracked something open. That evening, Jalen found Trevor waiting for him outside school. The same football jacket, but his expression was different, humbled. "I was a jerk," Trevor said quietly. "I didn't get it. I still don't. But I'm trying to." Jalen stared at him, skeptical. "I'm not asking you to forgive me," Trevor continued, "but I am asking if I can listen." Jalen didn't smile, but he nodded. That's where it starts. The podcast grew beyond anything Jalen or Sophia expected. Local journalists reached out. A college radio station replayed their episodes. Students from other schools sent messages. Stories, support, solidarity. But with attention came pressure. The school board launched an internal review, citing division among students. Rumors spread that Mic'd Up might be shut down. Jalen didn't flinch. He stood in front of the school auditorium, facing a room full of teachers, parents, and board members. He wore a plain black hoodie, jeans, and his truth. "I'm not here to divide," he said into the microphone. "I'm here because I want to stay in this school and not feel afraid. I want my voice, and voices like mine, to matter." Silence followed, then applause. First from a few students, then from the back row, then everyone. Even Principal Harmon, watching from the side, slowly nodded. After the assembly, Renee met Jalen outside. Tears welled in her eyes as she hugged him. "I'm proud of you," she whispered. "You're doing what I never had the chance to." The next day, someone had scribbled over the slur in the bathroom. It now read, "Go back to Africa," said no one who ever listened. Jalen smiled, a small act of defiance, a sign that someone had heard. Later, as they recorded another episode, Sophia turned to him and said, "You know, this might really be the beginning of something bigger." And Jalen believed her. Spring came to Atlanta with blossoms and warmth, but also with reflection. Mic'd Up became more than a podcast. It became a movement. Teachers held listening circles in classrooms. Students started their own conversations, not just about race, but about poverty, identity, mental health. The hallways that once echoed with silence now carried voices that mattered. Jalen walked the campus differently now. He wasn't invisible. He wasn't too visible. He was seen, fully, truly, and not just him. Layla smiled more. Ethan spoke up in class. Trevor, once silent, now volunteered at the school's mentorship program for freshmen. But change came at a cost. One afternoon, a brick shattered the library window. A note was tied to it. "Shut up, Mrs." Rogers clutched her chest when she saw it. "Are you all right?" she asked Jalen, shaken. He nodded slowly, then picked up the note. "No," he said. "I won't." The final episode of Mic'd Up for the year was called We're Still Here. Jalen's voice opened the show. They wanted silence. We gave them stories. They wanted obedience. We gave them truth. If change scares you, good. That means it's real. On the last day of school, the principal announced a new student advisory council. Jalen and Sophia were asked to co-chair. Layla and Ethan joined too. Even Trevor signed up, quietly, humbly. That evening at home, Renee placed Jalen's report card on the fridge beside his podcast poster. She kissed his forehead. "You did more than speak, baby," she said. "You built something." Jalen looked out the window, the city bathed in golden light. He didn't know what tomorrow held, but he knew one thing for sure. He would never be silent again.